Good evening, Hatters. Hello, hello. I'm so glad you're joining us this evening from the Mountain and Pacific time zones. I do know we have a few friends from Eastern time zone as well and Central, but mostly we're with Pacific and Mountain time zone folks tonight. So glad you're here. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rena Tovar Arroyo, and I am the Assistant Vice President for Development for Parent and Alumni Engagement. Tonight we have some wonderful Hatter friends with us. I was really excited when I reviewed the guest list and I saw your names. Many of you are very dear friends and all of you are terrific Hatters. We have parents, alumni, friends, grandparents. We have a number of folks with us tonight. So we are waiting for more guests to join the webinar. And as we wait for our guests to connect, we're going to do a fun poll to get us warmed up and for us to learn a little bit more about who is with us on the webinar. So my friends, Julie and Megan behind the scenes, thank you, Julie and Megan, are popping up this poll here. For Hatter alumni, which college or school did you graduate from? And if you're a Hatter parent, which college or school will or did your student graduate from? If you can mark College of Law, College of Arts and Sciences, School of Business, or the School of Music, so we can see who is with us. And as soon as we have all of you checking off those boxes, Julie will pop up the results for me so we can see who's in the house tonight. Okay, so this evening we have 9% College of Law, 45% Arts and Sciences, 36% School of Business, and 9% School of Music. Thank you so much for doing that. One of the things we're going to do as we wait for more people to join us is we would like you to identify where your chat function is on the webinar here. And so that you know how to use it, we'd like for those of you who are Hatter alumni to type in there what class year you graduated from. So if you graduated in 76, type 76. And again, parents, please do the year that your student has or will graduate from in that box as well, so we can start to see who is with us on the call in regards to class years. So go ahead and type those in, and this chat box will be the chat box that you can use to submit questions live so that Dr. Rolke can answer those questions as we go through. Okay, so we have folks from class of 03, 22, 1965, 1967, welcome everybody, 85, 75, 1983, 1980. This is a really great group in the house. All right, very good, throughout a number of decades. So thank you so much for sharing about yourselves. All right, it looks like we've got a good group of people in, and we will go ahead and get started with the webinar. So this evening's webinar is a wonderful opportunity for you to get to know our new president. Some of you submitted questions for Dr. Rolke when you registered for the event, and just remember that you do have the opportunity to send in questions live in that chat box. We do have a few other panelists on the call with us this evening who are going to give a short welcome and update. So I'll go ahead and introduce them all right now. Mike Casey, who is the Associate Director of Alumni Relations from our College of Law, is with us. Raynell Tinsley Mason, class of 2000, and the current Alumni Board President, will also give a greeting. Tara Hamilton, our Executive Director of University Development Initiatives, is with us. And of course, please join me in giving a warm Hatter welcome to Dr. Christopher Rolke, who became Stetson's 10th president on July 1st, 2020. Welcome, Dr. Rolke.
Thank you very much, Rena, and good evening, Hatters. It's my pleasure to be joining you here this evening, and I'm especially grateful that you're engaging with us virtually. In a regular world, I probably would have been out to the mountains or out west to meet with you individually. So I hope you'll indulge me with just a few words of welcome, a few observations before I turn this over to my colleagues for the rest of our program. I will have some additional remarks in a few moments, but I did want to share with you some early impressions of my time at Stetson. And again, thank you for being here. We need you now more than ever, as like most institutions of higher education, we are confronted with, in fact, a once-in-a-century set of challenges. And let me also say that I hope that during this crazy time that you and your families and loved ones are staying safe and staying well. In typical Hatter fashion, we don't shy away from the challenges that we might confront. We meet them head on. And this year, we have embraced 3 themes that have helped us, I think, immensely to move through these challenges. And they are the themes of kindness, empathy, and agency. My strong belief is that those organizations, small businesses, large businesses, places of worship, et cetera, those that demonstrate kindness, empathy, and agency are the ones that are going to emerge from this global pandemic stronger than they were before. These meet and greets have been part of an overall communication strategy during this unprecedented context, and these sessions have been coupled with 14 consecutive weeks of webinars with our communities in DeLand and Gulfport. We do that every Thursday for an hour, and this Thursday night is going to be a special webinar for our community centered on issues of diversity and inclusion. We've held these webinars and these meet and greets in an effort to keep our community informed in real time of developments associated with the global pandemic, our COVID-19 response, our preparations for the 2020 election, our experiences with intercollegiate athletics, our partnerships with local public health officials, Stetson's commitment to diversity and inclusion in light of considerable national, regional, and Stetson-based unrest around issues of racial justice, and also how we are generally, as students, faculty, and staff, experiencing life at Stetson in a context of a global pandemic. Safe to say that in some cases, we have succeeded far beyond expectations. In other cases, we have struggled a bit, or maybe even fallen a bit short, and have had to rethink our strategies, our deployment of resources, and even our collective vision moving forward. This past Friday marked my 100th day as Stetson's president. It's only the 72nd day if you don't count the weekends. And I simply want to reaffirm to our community that despite these challenges, I could not be more proud of how, in true Hatter fashion, our community here in DeLand and at the College of Law has collaborated, has adapted, and has persevered under very trying circumstances. As this 100th day has passed, I also want to report that I have learned a tremendous amount through what I've been calling my accelerated listening and learning tour, which has included engagement with faculty, staff, students, alumni, trustees, Stetson parents, the broader Volusia community, and also, of course, our colleagues at the College of Law. These observations that I'm about to share with you are also driven from considerable data analysis, including things like our faculty surveys, a review of documentation with some strategic planning we did in Deltona. I will keep my remarks brief as we do want to hear from our colleagues in Alumni Affairs and Development and from the College of Law, but I do hope you'll indulge me with a few observations. Stetson has generally, but I believe very importantly, embraced the aforementioned themes of kindness, empathy, and agency in an exceptionally challenging educational, residential, and economic environment. Due to careful and thorough planning, and certainly also because of compliance, Stetson has thus far performed better than anticipated with the institution's response to COVID-19. However, it is also safe to say that considerable anxiety and public health concerns persist at Stetson and nationally, and we must remain vigilant in mitigating the transmission of this virus, particularly as we continue into Tier 2 on our campuses. Both external and internal events centered on racial justice have amplified voices from divergent socio-political perspectives, and the uncertainty of the upcoming 2020 election is complicating this context considerably. I'm also pleased to report that something that has been reaffirmed for me, even from when I was a candidate to become your 10th president, Stetson absolutely enjoys a positive and collaborative relationship with the local community. And this has been evidenced during this pandemic by open communication and cooperation with local and regional health providers, city and government officials, and local law enforcement. In addition, and connected to this notion of community, it's really clear to me that Stetson has ample fieldwork and community-based learning opportunities. Though these opportunities have been limited by COVID-19, this absolutely bolsters Stetson's strong relationship with local partners. This is in fact a demonstrable strength of Stetson, and I am so eager as your new president to build on this very positive momentum and it's a strong interest shared among our faculty, staff, and students, something I am deeply personally connected to and want to enhance at Stetson. And finally, despite considerable efforts over time to promote equity and inclusion, the data and associated narratives from our most recent iteration of the Campus Climate Survey do point to some differential experiences at Stetson based on a number of demographic characteristics, most notably race and gender, and perhaps even also employment category. On this front, I do hope that you'll continue to stay engaged with us as we move this institution forward on important goals of inclusion and diversity. Thanks for indulging me in a few brief introductory remarks. I'm looking forward, I'll have some additional reflections for you in just a few moments, and I'm especially eager to get to the question and answer period so I can get to know what's on your mind. Again, being selected as Stetson's 10th president is the greatest honor and privilege of my professional life, and I'm so eager to work with you moving forward. And again, thank you for your continued engagement. Having said that, I'd like to move to my colleague over at the College of Law, Mike Casey. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, President Rolke. As mentioned, I'm Mike Casey. I'm the Associate Director here at the College of Alumni Relations here at the College of Law. Dean Alexandre sends her regrets this evening. Unfortunately, she had a conflict and was disappointed that she's not able to be with you this evening. Although I do want to thank each of you for being here tonight. I especially want to welcome and say hello to our College of Law alum. Thanks for carving out time for us tonight. Before I provide a brief campus update, I do want to take a moment just really to recognize President Rolke for his strong leadership during what has at times really been a tumultuous and dynamic period for our university. I know that he's been working extremely long hours to ensure that our campuses are safe and that classes and learning continue uninterrupted. And he's been doing it all while promoting a culture of empathy and kindness. So my hats off to you, President Rolke. Professor Bowman always encourages her students here at the law school to have 3 points. So that's exactly what I have for you tonight. Just 3 quick bullets. The first is we were able to fill several key faculty positions that had been open throughout some in the fall and even through the spring. We brought on Professor Elizabeth Bowles as our director of our top-rated Center for Excellence in Advocacy. Also, Professor Roy Biaste, who is the director now of the Dolly and Hand Law Library. And finally, Alicia Jackson, Professor Alicia Jackson is the director of our Academic Success and Bar Prep program. If you're a graduate of the College of Law, you'll be getting a video within the next week or so introducing you to all 3 of those new faculty members. We also have a new business law concentration for our JD students. It's a strong focus on commercial law, taxation, and international business. It's much like our other concentrations in elder law, environmental law, and social justice. And we're very proud to offer that to our students. And finally, we are supporting our 2020 graduates. The pandemic has been especially tough for them, graduating in the spring, and even now our December class. Our bar here in Florida, the Florida bar postponed the exam till actually today. They did take the exam today. We're very happy about. And we have been supporting our recent and newly minted alums through a show of support with a letter that the dean sent out, encouraging firms to hire and employ our grads until they can be appropriately approved by the bar. And then also we thank everyone who has participated to our Stetson Law Emergency Fund. We've been able to assist students and recent alumni who were in desperate need of funds to tide them over. So with that, I will turn it back over to Rena. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you and your leadership over at the College of Law. Okay, next we're going to have a brief update from Raynell Tinsley Mason, our out of the class of 2000 and our current Alumni Board president. She's going to give us a quick update on the alumni and parent engagement activities as well as board activities. Thanks, Raynell.
Thank you, Rena. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us this evening. As Rena commented, I'll be giving a brief update for the Alumni and Parent Engagement Office. So as you can imagine, we were all excited to travel the country this year to see each and every one of you in person. But alas, COVID struck us all. So with safe social distancing parameters in place, the Alumni and Parent Engagement Office has launched a series of digital events and programs to help our Hatter alumni and parents stay engaged and connected. These virtual initiatives give you easy access to learn, connect, and engage with one another, and also opportunities for you to help and support the current students. The team is always here to support you. The Meadows Alumni House door is always open. However, currently it's a virtual door, but regardless, it's always open. Remember, you are among Stetson's Hatter network of 42,000 alumni strong. Allow me to quickly review some of the upcoming programs. In order to continue maintaining our social distancing, we'll be hosting a virtual homecoming held November 6th through 8th. Activities and events this year will include a dean's panel, academic, multicultural, and athletic, social virtual workshops, and of course, time to reminisce with old friends. If your class year ends in a 0 or a 5, we'll also be celebrating you with this virtual class reunion. And don't forget to join us for a nostalgic kickoff concert on Thursday, November 5th to launch the weekend of events. More information will be coming to your post box or your email shortly, so do look for that. If you have any questions, please reach out to the alumni office. We hope to see you then. Next, we have our Leadership Stetson. That is the end of January. It's hard to believe that we're only a few months away. This program is designed to increase the number of Stetson alumni and parents actively engaged with the university and to develop the next generation of Stetson's leadership. Participants have the chance to learn more about Stetson, including the internal and external forces that affect the university's direction. There's also a dean's panel, discussions with university administrators, faculty and students, and a chance to participate in discussions about the future of Stetson. All this while networking with fellow alumni and parents. There is a nomination and application process for Leadership Stetson. So if you have an interest in applying, please reach out today. Next slide that we have is the Alumni Board. The Alumni Board is comprised of members representing various classes, majors, backgrounds, professions, and geographic areas. And we are happy to have new members rotating onto the board each year. The mission of the board is to promote and develop enduring relationships between alumni and the university while fostering loyalty and philanthropic support. If you have any interest, please reach out to the alumni office today or to myself personally. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for being with us tonight. I'd like to introduce Tara Hamilton, Executive Director of University Initiatives.
Thank you, Renelle. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you're with us tonight. I'm excited to briefly share with you some good news as it relates to our recent fundraising success. Around this time last year, we were celebrating the completion of our 7-year Beyond Success to Significance campaign. We raised over $218 million, which vastly exceeded our $200 million goal. It was really something to celebrate. So I'm just going to mention a few of the most recent highlights that our generous donors helped us to accomplish. We received the single largest gift in Stetson history, $18 million for our new C.C. and Hyatt Brown Hall for Health and Innovation. These are a few of the renderings of the new building that will sit adjacent to Sage Hall. The Carlton Union Building was beautifully renovated and expanded by 40%. I think the Cub is a wonderful example of blending our historical architecture with modern design to meet the needs of today's students. And if you're wondering if that picture in the upper left corner is a water feature, you would be correct. Troy and Sissy Templeton made this colorful fountain possible. I've also heard some people refer to it more of a splash pad rather than a fountain, but either way, it looks very inviting on a hot Florida day. We also endowed the Edmonds Scholarship program, which is our prestigious full-ride academic scholarship. Donors endowed our joint College of Law and undergraduate civil rights travel course, where students actually get to meet and walk in the footsteps of the Freedom Riders. We also enhanced our Jewish campus community with the dedication of the newly remodeled Jeffrey and Diane Ginsburg Hillel House. In the campaign, $18.8 million was raised to support Stetson athletics. This includes the new athletic training center and the addition of beach volleyball, lacrosse, and of course, the return of Hatter football. The Sandra Stetson Aquatic Center was made possible by John B. Stetson's granddaughter and is home to the Institute for Water and Environmental Resilience, as well as our men's and women's rowing teams. And speaking of John B. Stetson, he now resides in the heart of campus thanks to another gift from the Templetons. It's the perfect place for a photo op while you're visiting, or of course, snapping a selfie. And finally, over the past several months, we have reached out to Hatter Nation to ask for their support to help our students most affected by the pandemic. Between the Law and DeLand campuses, donors, large and small, as well as private foundations, have given over $644,000. For that, we say thank you, and our hats are off to you, Hatters. We would not be the university we are today without the support of all of you. As we look beyond the challenges of 2020, we know affordability and access will still remain top of mind for many students and families. So we hope you will continue supporting scholarships as well as the Stetson Fund. And if you are able, please also consider another gift to one of our COVID student emergency funds. Thank you again for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you again in person next time. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Roelke.
Thank you so very much. It's nice to be back with you. And I just have a few brief remarks before we get to the Q&A. And first, I wanted to talk about the Stetson University community. This is an extraordinary place, as you all know, and certainly my impressions during my stealth visits to campus as a candidate have been reaffirmed in my first few months here. When I came to DeLand on June 15th, it was in the height of the pandemic. Florida, in fact, at that time was the epicenter for the United States of the pandemic. And I drove into town and there was an enormous banner welcoming me to DeLand as Stetson's 10th president. It was very heartwarming. I've also come to really adore a number of characteristics of the Stetson community, and I've used these terms publicly, and I'll share them with you. I think Stetson is scrappy, tenacious, resilient, and caring. And again, that's reflected in my comments earlier about that when the challenges arise, Stetson is innovative, it thinks through these challenges together, and ultimately ends up being resilient. So I couldn't be more pleased to become a member of the Stetson community. The COVID-19 pandemic response. Although I've only been here for a little over 100 days, I'm pleased to report to you that President Emerita Wendy Libby invited me back in February when the pandemic first hit the United States to be deeply engaged with the senior leadership team, gave me access to students, to faculty, to alums and others, and certainly the Board of Trustees. The dialogue was consistent throughout. So although I've only been here officially for 100 days, it's been many, many months where I feel I've been immersed in the Stetson University community. And I am so pleased and frankly so proud of our COVID-19 pandemic response. We made a couple of critical decisions along the way. The first was the aforementioned themes of kindness and empathy, and also agency. That is giving students and giving faculty the opportunity to make the choice as to how they were going to deliver classes and how our students were going to engage in classes. And so I think that was very important because there was a lot of uncertainty during that time, and it gave people a lot of confidence that Stetson was in fact moving forward judiciously. The other critical decision we made was to limit our on-campus residentiality to single occupancy. That was a significant challenge for us because we know how important the residential life components of our enterprise are. However, we felt it wasn't safe to have 3 people in a room or even a double in a room, particularly if someone did come down and had a transmission of the virus. So that is enabling us to properly isolate students that might test positive for COVID-19. We could then get them food and allow them to recuperate within a single room. And if you don't get a chance, I do hope you'll visit at some point the Safer Stetson website, in particular the dashboard. which is very transparent about the number of infections we've had on campus, as well as the number of students that have been in isolation, as well as our current positivity rate. And I'm pleased to report that after last week's testing of over 400 people, we ended up having 0 positives. That does not mean that we're out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. We still need to be cautious and careful and do our mitigation strategies of washing our hands regularly, wearing masks, watching our distance, and watching our crowd size. But the fall semester has gone exceptionally well, again, far beyond our expectations, and it's due, in fact, to careful planning and also extraordinary compliance, particularly among our student body. Needless to say, I said this in my earlier remarks, that we're in a time of considerable national unrest, particularly with regard to issues of race. And we just completed the second iteration of our campus climate survey. The first was in 2016. And we just released the results to both the College of Law and to the DeLand campus. And we're having ongoing conversations about how best to move our campus forward. Tremendous ideas being put forward, lots of ideas about how we can build a stronger community and how we can become a more welcoming place for people from a wide range of backgrounds moving forward. I spent a lot of my time at Vassar College working on these kinds of issues, and I look forward to the next steps for Stetson with great optimism moving forward. One of the challenges that we've confronted this fall, and it's a significant one, is that because of the mitigation strategies we had to implement, including installing high-tech ventilation systems, putting in technology in classrooms so that faculty could teach their classes remotely. In fact, moving to single occupancy, which was a $4 million budget reduction in terms of our income. We do rely heavily on room and board income for our operations. So the overall budget reduction was $16.8 million from the projected 2021 budget. As you can imagine, that's a significant level of sacrifice that all members of our community needed to make in order to make a Stetson education possible for our students through the 2021 academic year. How did we do that? Well, we kept operational budgets flat. We had salary reductions that took place for senior officials, including myself, for the summer months. And we had projected to have to make salary cuts for all people that work at Stetson starting September 1st. However, I am very, very pleased to report that because our enrollment figures were much stronger than anticipated, we were able to restore those salary cuts. So no pay cuts for folks on the DeLand or College of Law campus in September. That was very much appreciated and a morale booster for those that are working so hard during this unprecedented context. However, we have foregone all retirement benefits. Those that are familiar with higher education, there are TIA-CREF contributions that are made to every employee, and those have been brought to zero for this academic year. That is a major sacrifice for all members of our community. So let me be clear, this has not been easy, but I'm exceptionally proud of how Stetson has navigated this terrain. I'm going to be very simple on this slide, and I hope you'll appreciate my narrative here. Our single greatest priority and what we are staying laser focused on is promoting the health and safety of our communities. While that's overly simplistic, it is absolutely, in my view, the right thing to be focusing on during this once-in-a-century set of challenges. We also have certainly concerns around the racial climate, and we are working steadfastly in moving our community forward with robust conversations about inclusion and about diversity and about issues associated with racial injustice. Certainly, we have more priorities moving forward, and there are lots of challenges that present higher education more broadly, and certainly Stetson specifically. One I'll mention right off the bat is that Stetson University as a private institution is not unlike many of our peers, where we do have a high tuition, high discount situation, which means that our price tag is fairly high, but we also have tremendous needs among our students in terms of financial aid. We're going to need to make sure that we are financially sustainable for the longer haul, and in particular, trying to make this form of education accessible to a wider, more diverse range of students. I also think that you saw that we have wonderful capital projects that have taken place, including this wonderful new, most ambitious project we've ever undertaken, which is the C.C. and Hyatt Brown Hall of Health and Innovation. And it is an amazing project for which we hope to break ground in May. Adjacent to that building is Sage, which also needs to be brought up into modern standards. So there are certainly fundraising opportunities associated with that project. We're also eager to bolster our community engaged learning opportunities with the City of DeLand and the broader Volusia community. That also holds true at the College of Law. So there are lots and lots of opportunities that present themselves for the future, but make no mistake about it. Right now, we are laser focused on the public health and safety of all members of our community. So I will stop there because I'm so eager to get to the Q&A portion of our discussion. Again, thank you very, very much for joining us, and thank you for staying engaged with Stetson. Let me just simply repeat that we need you now more than ever.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rolke. Thank you for your leadership. I have to tell you that your inclusionary leadership is working. The faculty are responding very well, as are students and staff. So it's so much fun to introduce you to the rest of the Hatter Nation tonight. So I want to just remind folks, you can submit questions in the question box. We have some rolling in. We also had some that were submitted before when you registered for the webinar. So we will start with those questions. And I also wanted to let you all know, our viewing audience, that the majority of those pictures that were taken without masks were taken before the pandemic. So I just wanted to make sure to state that. All right, so Dr. Rolke, our first question is, would you please tell us a little bit about your family and how they're doing with the adjustment for you becoming president down in Florida?
Thank you for the question. I am extremely proud of my family, and I can't wait for you all to meet them. My wife, Kim, is a small animal surgeon. My daughter, Emma, is 26 years old, is a second-year medical student at NYU Long Island School of Medicine. My daughter, Julia, is a second-year science educator and sustainability fellow and basketball coach in Westport, Connecticut. And my youngest daughter, Olivia, is a high school student. And none of these family members are with me at the moment. Part of it was pandemic, and part of it was just trying to have my daughter finish high school, where she was very familiar with her high school experience. So they're not with me. In some ways, that's been a little bit of a blessing because I've been able to put in the kind of long hours without any compromise whatsoever, because my family is not with me. But they're terrific folks. I can't wait for you to meet them, and they're eager to meet you as well.
Wonderful. We can't wait either. We're excited for that. Okay, we did have a comment come in, an observation from one of the folks online. I commend what is being done to keep the students, faculty, and staff as safe as possible from COVID. Thank you for the emails and COVID-related articles. So glad you require mask usage, social distancing, contact tracing, etc. Keep up the great work. And that comment goes in hand with a question that we received while people were registering. The plan for the opening of school looked outstanding, but every plan changes when implemented. What surprised you and what had to be modified when the students actually arrived?
First, thank you so much for the generous comment in the text box. And it gives me an opportunity to thank all of the people at Stetson that worked tirelessly to make this possible. A little confession, which I'll share with you, is that I was a bit pessimistic when I was in New York, because at the time that this first hit, New York, of course, was the epicenter for the United States. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's coming to Florida. I'm about to start as a new president there. How is this going to go? And I have to tell you that, again, the community absolutely stepped up, and people, frankly, working outside their comfort zones, right? So we didn't have athletics this fall, for example. So we had athletic coaches going out and keeping our student body engaged, recruiting first-time in college students, making sure that they understood that we were ready and prepared to take them in. Really, people working just tirelessly to make sure that we could give this a go in the 2021 academic year. So anyway, I'm very grateful for the comment in the box. We are still working our tails off to make sure we stay safe. We're cautiously moving into tier 2. And so thank you again for the comment. Some things that perhaps we didn't go quite as planned. One was, I'm pleased to report that when we went to single occupancy, we have about roughly 1,600 beds that we can accommodate on single occupancy. Well, we had 1,900 students that wanted to come, even when Florida was the epicenter of the pandemic in the United States. To me, as a new person on the block, that spoke volumes about the importance of our residential education and also how much desire our students had to be here despite the health risks associated with it. Long story short, we had about 300 students at the outset that were staying in hotels that we contracted with very quickly at a reduced rate, thankfully, but still, it cost us some money to put students up because it was beyond what we typically charge for room and board. Long story short, we weren't the best at getting them food on a timely basis. So for instance, if a student was, because of contact tracing, asked to isolate and was in a hotel, we were not particularly timely in getting them the food that they needed. So we learned quickly, and
Very quickly.
true matter of fashion, we had dozens of volunteers that came up out of the woodwork to say, I can help to make sure that this is done efficiently and so our students can be fed. So that's just one small example where you learn as you go. I also think that we had to have some flexibility on the part of faculty. So faculty, even those that had a desire to teach face-to-face and were prepared to teach face-to-face in a physically distant manner, in some cases under tents, including outside my house here at the President's House, which we pitched in preparation for COVID-19. Well, let's say they had a student in the class that tested positive. Well, then they needed to shift gears fairly quickly because they didn't feel that they could do in person anymore. So they either temporarily or permanently moved to a hybrid or virtual format. So the other word that comes to my mind when I describe Stetson in this fall semester is nimble. Stetson has demonstrated the ability to be nimble, and I think these times require that. And Stetson gets an A+ from your new president in terms of its ability to be nimble.
Absolutely, and the ability that you gave many in our campus community to have agency to decide if they wanted to learn online or in person, socially distanced. The faculty had that agency. So I get chills when I think about the way the community has responded. So I agree with you. Okay, we have another question here from a graduate who is from the School of Music, class of 1986. Can you tell us anything about how the School of Music is responding to COVID-19?
Great question, because as you can imagine, much like intercollegiate athletics, which is part of our education here, music is a critical part of our education at Stetson, and it's one of the riskier activities, if I can be frank, right? You know, you can't have a choir side by side booming it out, right? So it's been a challenge, and we have an extraordinary faculty at the School of Music. And in fact, several of the classes that do take place out of the tent are in fact from the School of Music. And it's a joy for me because I'm here at the house and I hear these beautiful sounds coming from outside the tent, and I go out and say hello. And so they've been very creative, breaking up ensembles into smaller groups, doing some things virtually. The incredibly legendary Christmas service is going to be done virtually this year. So again, these are sad things that we can't partake in the traditions that we adore so much at Stetson, but what it has done is it unleashed the creativity of the faculty and unleashed the creativity of our students. So it has been a challenge in certain disciplines, music among them, given the nature of those activities.
Very good, yes. Okay, we had another question. You talked earlier when Tara showed the slides of some of the new facilities that we have put up during our campaign. There's a question here about, are there any plans for other facilities to become online, possibly something with the theater department, music, anything like that? Sure.
Stetson was founded in 1883, as you all know, and I'm coming to you from a campus that was in the 1860s built. And one of the challenges with campuses with that kind of rich history is that some of the buildings need some work, right? So Stetson has done, I think, a fine job on trying to manage things like deferred maintenance, but there are some issues that do need to be remedied to make sure that all of our spaces are sort of adhering to code for life safety reasons, fire suppression. I just completed an accessibility walk with a number of our students that require accessibility accommodations. And it was quite an eye-opener for me, and that some of our buildings, including the ones that these particular students frequent, it's a real challenge for them to enter and to exit the building. And we want to have universal design whenever possible and make sure that we can have the least restrictive environment possible for those that may have disabilities of some sort. So I think those are some ongoing, always present challenges in terms of our physical plant. When I was interviewing as president, there were lots of discussion and aspirations for developing a performing arts space of some sort, because we have world-class performances, but we don't have world-class space in which for those performances to occur. So I think that is an aspirational project that we would like to be contemplating for the future. There also has been some planning around a building that is across the street from the Land Hall that is a museum that we have the right to first refusal on that museum should it go up for sale. It's a very strategically located property. It actually does have theater space in it. So we are working hard on raising money to see if that's even feasible for us to acquire that property. I personally think it's a very strategic investment that Stetson could make, and so we have to amplify our fundraising efforts in order to make that possible. It's also a buyer's market, if you will. It's a good time to be acquiring property, and this is quite a strategic one. Stetson used to own it and then sold it, but has the right to first refusal on it. We'd like to reacquire it.
Excellent, very good. Okay, I have a somewhat loaded question here for you. It's a good one. We are so happy that you're a sports-loving president. We know you love them all, but what is your true favorite?
Oh, I'd have to give you a split vote on that, and that would be I really love the sports of both basketball and baseball. Those sports have played an important role in my own education and my own upbringing, and so those are the ones I'm passionate about. But I love all sports and all forms of competition as long as it's accompanied with good sportsmanship.
Excellent. That is a good question. I love it. I'm curious who submitted that one. Okay, we have another question that was submitted beforehand. How has the university been bridging the potential gap for students to build mentoring relationships with professors that may have been best developed from in-person instruction?
You know, that's a great question, and I'll get to the answer to this, but I first wanted to share with you just an anecdote, which is when I do visit out at the tent, the students there, when I go and introduce myself, we talk for a few moments, and I don't want to interrupt the class, but almost to a person, they indicate how pleased they are to be on campus despite the constrictions. They even say, thank you for, as if this is I was the only one making the decision. Thank you for letting us come back on campus, which I thought was both endearing and also spoke volumes to the importance of being on campus. So let me say that first. However, they are so eager to get back to some degree of normal interaction, right? They miss the office hours with faculty. They miss the robust conversations that can occur face-to-face at the Cub. They miss the opportunity to be at Lee's Garage, interacting with one another over at the Cub, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So something is clearly missing. I do think that our faculty have thought creatively about how to connect with every single student in their class by having one-on-one meetings virtually. I also think our Student Government Association has been creative on developing activities and fun activities, even though they may be virtual. Now, please keep in mind, we are starting to open up a bit more, right? So we are starting to get more and more face-to-face interaction. With regard to the mentoring, which is so critical, all the folks in student affairs and all the faculty are still continuing to engage with students. We've been concerned about mental health and isolation, for example, during a time of COVID. And our mental health counselors have been superb in reaching out, and frankly can get many more appointments in short order virtually than they can in a face-to-face format. So they're working on that and taking advantage of the technology, but rest assured that this is something we're on, but we do not yet have perfect. We are still learning each day how best to engage with our students. I don't mind sharing this with you, but we're seeing a few more students with some academic difficulties than we would typically see in an academic semester, and there's no doubt in my mind that it's rooted in the fact that they're not face-to-face fully.
For sure. All right, so we have another question that came in beforehand that ties into that. What is the outlook for all students returning to campus in the spring?
You know, we're very hopeful about that. We really are. Of course, we also are going to continue to provide agency for people to make those decisions. I don't think we would force people to come back if they didn't feel that they could do it for a variety of family or other reasons, but we're eager to try to come back. We do have a few spaces where we already have doubles, sibling situations, close cousins. You know, we have people that know each other that have spent time with each other before. We are hoping to open up to double occupancy. We are going to have a full rollout of the projected spring schedule at our webinar on Thursday, October 22nd. And we're hoping to have a better idea of how much we're going to be able to repopulate the campus in the spring by that date. Again, if you take a look back at when we did this summer, we didn't know until 10 days before what we were going to have the capacity to do. Again, that word nimble. Stetson was nimble. The public health data were coming in. We were working with local public health officials, working with the CDC and others to figure out what was safe to do. And it was literally 10 days before that we decided this is how we're going to try to pull this off. I don't want that to happen again. I don't want it to be a 10-day window. I'm hoping we'll have much more advance notice, but please rest assured that the desire is to try to repopulate the campus as much as possible, not just because of the financial impact of that, but also because of the educational impact of having us all be together.
Absolutely. So it's a little like building an airplane while it's flying, isn't it, with all of the changes? And I think everybody on the webinar understands that with your day-to-day lives. So
yep.
I do have to tell you, I got a text that the sports question was from Stephen Lee Alexander. So hi, Stephen Lee. That was good.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question that we received in advance was, what are your plans for continually improving the university, and how is your experience relating to your experience at Vassar?
Good. So I'd like to reflect a little bit, if I could, at the presidential prospectus. This is this big document that tells you these are the qualities we're looking for in the next president of Stetson, and the ambitions that I think the board, the members of the search committee, who all did their thorough work in getting feedback from the community. I'll say the following things: that I think that Stetson, in order to maintain its strength and position in the market, does need to expand its geographic footprint somewhat. We have roughly 75% of our students come from the state of Florida, which is wonderful. And we are absolutely a tremendous regional player. I would like to see us be a national player by expanding our geographic footprint. This is a challenge for many institutions, but I think it's particularly timely for Stetson that we make sure that we expand our geographic footprint both domestically and internationally. I mentioned it before, but I think that in order to secure Stetson's financial future, we are also going to need to work creatively at the model of the high tuition, high discount, because the net tuition revenue has been diminishing over time. And we, of course, require that tuition revenue, net tuition revenue, in order to pay our faculty a competitive wage, in order to make sure that we have robust financial aid available to our students, to make sure that we can maintain our 1883 campus and our buildings and so on and so forth. So I don't mean to focus only on the financial aspect, but there are financial sustainability challenges that lie ahead for Stetson. I'm delighted to report that Stetson University at both the 1, 5, and 10-year mark have performed in the top decile of all institutions with regard to endowment performance. That is extraordinary. That is really, really hard to do, and my kudos to the investment committee on the Board of Trustees. Our endowment now rests somewhere in the $330 million range, which is nothing to sneeze at for sure, but on a per pupil basis, it is a little weaker than many of our peers and our competitors. So we do need to improve the financial foundation upon which Stetson University is built. We need you in that. We'll soon be embarking, I think, in a capital campaign once this COVID-19 dissipates and we can get our heads around our strategic initiatives for moving forward. We are going to have to continue to fundraise and continue to also watch our costs. Anybody that reads the newspaper will see that everybody's concerned about the escalating costs of higher education. Well, I'm less concerned about the escalating costs, because it's usually 2, 3, 4% a year, but we have to make sure that we have a return on that investment. Families need that, students are expecting that. So what do I mean by that? I would like to see Stetson continue to draw upon its strengths in community-based learning, in bridging any perceived or real gaps between theory and practice, give students ample opportunities to apply what it is they're learning in the classroom in real-world settings. If we can put that value proposition out to future families and students, I think Stetson will be very well situated and will always be a draw, and will be a draw with a greater geographic footprint.
Excellent. Yes, very good. So that actually ties into the next question, which is...
I forgot to answer the Vassar piece.
Oh, yes, let's do that.
I forgot to answer that. Sorry, you get me going on higher education aspirations, and I can get long-winded, so I apologize.
That's
The
okay.
very generous question is, how is Vassar different than Stetson? Well, first of all, I think foundationally they're very similar in the sense that very rich in experiential learning. Residentiality plays a key part in the education of both Stetson students and Vassar students. Roughly the same vintage, 1863, 1883. There are some, however, demonstrable differences. One would be that we are strictly, I shouldn't say we anymore, Vassar is strictly undergraduate, 2,400, so it's a little bit smaller. And certainly we have a rich tradition in the arts and sciences in the School of Arts and Sciences at Stetson, but we of course have robust graduate programs and also some pre-professional programs in the College of Law, School of Business, and School of Music. So the other piece that I think is different for me, at least, is there's a greater opportunity here in Florida because of the socio-political diversity that Central Florida offers. Right here on our campus and right here in our region. So I think that's a significant difference in terms of where our campuses are situated.
Great, great. So the next question that had come in was, how can alumni help with your top priorities? Let's put parents in there as well.
Thank you very much. I hope you'll find that over time that I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm not going to try to dance around it. And one of the real big challenges for us moving forward at Stetson is that our alumni participation rate philanthropically is very low. It is hovering around 7 or 8%. Now, I'm not asking you on this virtual call to make a bequest or to, what I am asking you to do is for your help in engaging more Stetson alums and parents, more Stetson friends, so that we can get a higher level of engagement with regard to the philanthropic needs of Stetson. I also don't mind sharing with you that there are 2 metrics in our rankings that I think I would love us to give attention to. One is that participation rate. We are compared to our peers in terms of alumni participation in our giving opportunities. And the other is our retention rate. That is, to what extent are we able to, once we admit a student, graduate them within 4, 5, or 6 years? Although Stetson has made some progress in there, we're still hovering in the mid 70s to high 70s in there. I'd love to see us get that number to be at least in the mid 80s. Why? Again, that's a return on the investment question. Parents are looking at this. What is your retention rate? If my student starts at Stetson, are they going to finish there? And are they going to get their degree in 4 years? Those are all very important economic questions. So those are some things we could help you with. Your ideas, your thoughts, your resources, your insights. And we definitely need your continued engagement. We have 42,000 Stetson University alums, 42,000, but we've only been regularly engaging about a little more than half of those people. So we've got some work to do on our end to make sure that we reach, at least you don't get anything if you don't ask. So we've got to reach all 42,000. And there may be some hidden gems out there too, some insights, some expertise, and also perhaps some resources that we might be able to land, because Stetson's going to need those resources moving forward.
Absolutely. Very good. We have 2 more questions, and I want to encourage folks, if you have any questions before we end at 7 o'clock your time, 9 o'clock our time, please submit those. So the next to last question here is, to date, what is your favorite experience as the president of Stetson?
That's a great question. There's been so many, and I think I'm going to pick this one. So,
Okay.
And it's a little self-serving, but I'm going to do it anyway. I've been having many robust conversations with the Multicultural Student Council. I'm having robust conversations with folks over at Hillel, also with the Black Student Association. And I'd like to share one anecdote from my meeting with the executives of the Black Student Association, which was on my virtual call with them and talking over the campus climate survey. A young man indicated to me, he said, President Roque, I just wanted to say thank you because I think you get it and I feel heard. I have to say, I think that's the highlight for me. I got goosebumps when the young man chose to say such nice things to me virtually. And we had such a robust and frank and candid conversation. And given my own identity, it just was a big boost of confidence for me to know that I'm connecting in a positive way, in this case, with several of our students that identify as Black, especially during a time where there's considerable uncertainty and distrust of people in positions of authority. That little anecdote meant an awful lot to me. And I wrote back to the student telling him such, that it meant a lot to me. And that's something we got to keep going. It's back to that kindness, empathy, and agency piece.
Yeah.
If we can bring universally those dispositions to these difficult conversations and to the difficult challenges that lie ahead, there is zero doubt in my mind that Stetson is going to emerge out of this much stronger and better than we were before. There's no doubt in my mind. So my efforts throughout the first 100 days or so have really been focused on things like tone, disposition, attitude, engagement, openness. And I think that's come to fruition. I think that's bearing some fruit, if you will. Even I can tell it in the very first few months that it does seem to be resonating with the community. So thank you for the generous question. That one particular interaction stands out to me as perhaps my most potent highlight thus far.
Wonderful. And I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Okay, last question here, unless we have any more submitted, is what do you like to do for fun? And if you've had any free time, what have you been doing in your free time?
I don't mind sharing with you that the work is intense. It's intense. I knew it would be, certainly, but I'm truly energized by the work. I've been fond of saying that there's no better place to be than in an institution of higher education, and no better place to be than at Stetson University when you're confronted with issues of race and issues of socioeconomic status and a public health challenge. And the reason is you're around a lot of really smart, dedicated people who can think very creatively and innovatively to try to improve the human condition. So it's a fascinating place to be when society is confronted with a bevy of challenges like it has throughout this fall. So I've been energized by that. What I typically would like to do for fun is I very much want to join perhaps I think my baseball days are over, but maybe a softball intramural team or a basketball intramural team. I always like to stay physically active with my family, either go out for hikes or do something around some form of competition. I do love competition, friendly competition. So I look forward to being able to return to those days of that kind of physical activity. In the time of COVID, I'm in 418 North Woodland right now. This is the President's house, and maybe you can get a quick glimpse. I've been decorating the President's house. That is the Edmonds piano that's over there. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, because my family has not been with me, I've been making a lot of these sort of interior decorating decisions myself, and I'm actually pretty pleased with the results. I have sent pictures and things, and Joan Beasley, who's the most amazing executive assistant on the globe, has helped me make decisions, and we've done it on a very, very low budget. But I can't wait to look forward. I look forward very much to welcoming alums when it's safe to do so into this home. This is not my home. This is Stetson University's home. But I will say that over the weekends and sometimes in the evening, I do spend some time decorating the house. And that's been a different part of my brain that has been very therapeutic.
Well, you've done a really good job, both in the interior decorating and your first 106 days. And it's been a lot of fun to host these webinars with you. I'm super grateful for that. Thank you, Hatters. We have come to the end of our time this evening. We're very, very grateful for all of you. We care about you, we love you, and we can't wait to see you in person again. Thanks so much, everybody. Go Hatters.
Thank you, everyone. Go Stetson, go Hatters. Thank you for joining us.